Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Swamp Gas Podcast. Okay, so I have been working on this podcast for about a year and a half, and I'm still trying to figure out the best formula and the way to put out this information that feels comfortable to me. I can talk about it to myself, I can talk about it to other people, I can talk to myself in the car, but anytime I'm sitting in front of a microphone, it never seems to work really well. If anybody has done this sort of thing, podcasts or been on the microphone, I imagine you will understand. I have been working on this for quite a while. I probably have done, I can't even think about how many times I've tried to do this in all different ways. I tried doing it not just on the mic, but on video with it being pixelated. And I have used a teleprompter. I've written this stuff down, and that didn't work because I looked so stiff and stale. And I have a face for radio. Not really, but I don't have a on-camera presence, and I don't even like it. I'm not the type of person who is interested in, people watching me or paying attention or any of that. I'm more of a cerebral type of person where I think about things a lot and I study. I'm mid-40s, and I've been in the same line of work for over 20 years. So 20 plus years doing the same thing, which I absolutely 100% love. And I knew I was going to do it forever. So one of the things that I don't do is this. Like, this is not my thing. However, after doing it or trying to do it in many different ways for a long time now, I'm getting better at it, but I'm still uncomfortable. So literally right now, I'm closing my eyes trying to speak into this microphone. Anyways, okay, so this is supposed to be the about me sort of and about the podcast thing. The reason why we decided to call it the Swamp Gas Podcast is sort of a joke, an internal joke. There are a couple of things that people say about the extraterrestrial phenomenon, and one is that it's swamp gas, and the other is that it's a weather balloon. And so the weather balloon podcast didn't really sound funny, but the Swamp Gas Podcast kind of, flows and rings a bell. And you could say, well, it's the Swamp Gas Podcast, but it's not swamp gas. So that's sort of the joke behind it. Other than that, it's like so we have a group of people who have these experiences, if you want to call them experiences. We think of them differently all the time. So we all have these interesting experiences, and nobody wants to talk about it. You would think that initially, if you had some sort of otherworldly experiences, that your first thought would be like, I'm going to go tell everybody. And that might have been the case for people initially. But when you're around a group of people who have either had, much earlier experiences and spoke about it and realized really quickly how people react to someone speaking about these sorts of things, it's just, people say like, oh, I tell everybody and I'm going to do this. And, I would, tell the world. Are you really? Are you really? Think about it for a moment. Are you really? Maybe you would in the beginning. I even went through that phase in my initial experiences. And my reaction, or the reaction that I received, was, I would say, unfavorable. I quickly realized that, oh, okay, I get it now. This isn't something that you really want to just go out and tell people as much as you think you want to. Like I said, I have been in the same business for over 20 years, and nobody's paying me to do this. I'm not doing it to make money. Nobody is getting paid for any of this. These experiences are unpaid adventures. So, we're not receiving any benefits from it. And in fact, it's quite the opposite. For people who do go out and speak about this, they are ridiculed and called crazy or weirdos. And nobody really wants to go through that. It's not a good experience, to say the least, right? So I decided, I shouldn't say I decided, I mean, I did decide, but I will say that we sort of came to the conclusion that I would be the best person to, in our group, try to put out this information. And I'll just say, which is the about me thing, the reason why I have decided to try to speak about this is because, first of all, I have pretty much been on my own since I was a little kid. And, I don't really have any family. I mean, I have some family, but nobody that I have seen in, well over a decade or have ever really talked to. It's pretty much been just me. And, I'm not complaining about it because I've done really well. I'm a stronger person, like I looked at my situation and I did the best that I could with it. So I traveled a lot and I experienced a lot, and I've had a lot of experiences and I've gone a lot of places, and all that's great, right? But I became successful in business, which is fantastic, but ultimately, like, I don't have any family, and, I've got friends, but I'm more of a type of person who enjoys being by himself and, being alone. And, I've never been married. I don't have any kids. So I don't really, aside from my business, I don't have anything, not to lose, but I don't have anything that anybody could damage, other people in my life or do anything like that. And so this is one of the reasons why. And it's not that somebody's coming after us or, doing anything bad, which we can talk about later. But it's not that. It's just the way that the world reacts to people who talk about this sort of thing isn't necessarily good for their family or their business or their personal life. So, I don't have any of that really to worry about, minus my business. So after deciding this, I left the United States and I moved to a foreign country quite opposite to where the United States is. Not going to mention a specific location. So I uprooted myself and my business, which fortunately I have a web-based business now. and I was able to take that wherever I went, right? So it doesn't really matter my location. However, moving to basically a different world, or a third world, as you call it, is definitely not the easiest thing in the world to do. And being by yourself, I had friends. I still have friends. I have friends, It's just that, being in a different location where people don't speak your language, it's not as easy, right? It's not easy, right? But anyways, but I love it. It's a great place, and it is a good location for me to be able to, have this podcast, because if for some reason anybody figures out where I'm at, hopefully not, that, we've done the whole security thing, that if anybody does, nobody's going to show up at my door because I'm really far away. So, yeah, I'm like in the middle of nowhere. I mean, somewhere, but nowhere. But yeah, so that's a little bit about me. I don't, this is not going to be about me. I am going to talk about my experiences and the information that I've learned throughout this whole process, which has been 11 years now. And it is fantastic, but it is also life-changing in ways that you really can't imagine. Like my perspective, not only has my perspective on life changed, but my direction on life and the things that I value and appreciate has changed. So whereas before I had a very successful business, and it's still successful, however, to make these large changes, obviously, and especially being on an opposite side of the world and wherever it is that I am, and the amount of attention that you focus on new information that initially would seem absolutely absurd and beyond comprehension, it changes your mental perspective. It changes the things that you consider important, and it opens your mind and your horizons to such a broader perspective of what is important. And so I lost focus of my monetary goals, what I was thinking about and what I wanted to do with my life. And that was all about, it wasn't all about money, but it was like, I'm going to buy a house and I'm going to have a family and I'm going to have kids and I'm going to do all these things. And it changed that to really I want to know more about things. Like, I can't just go into it all in this episode, if you want to call it that, because it's so much and the information needs to be unpacked. But it really changes your direction, and that is and it isn't a good thing. People, like not everybody, I was going to say everybody, but not everybody wants to know everything, right? Not everybody wants to know the secrets to the universe. Somewhere deep down inside, we sort of think about it, but not everybody does, right? So some of us, if you're listening to this, maybe you do. For me, I definitely did. But when you get to that point, you realize it's not exactly as clear and laid out, and it's not what you think. I mean, it is what, I don't want to say it is what you think and it's not what you think, but it just changed my perspective so much and my interest so much that I sort of fell into it, and I became really interested in understanding and knowing more about, I will say, our galaxy than I was interested in my own personal life. So it is a good thing and it isn't a good thing. I'm going to end it on this, and that somebody told me once, after I had spoken to somebody in the group that I was with, and they said, just because you know that there is something more to life than what you're experiencing doesn't mean that you should give up living your life. So that's it for now. I'm going to do my best to maybe listen to this once and to not edit it, because if I do, I'm probably not going to put it out. This has been my biggest task. Now I've literally closed my eyes during this whole, spiel or speech or whatever you want to call it. I closed my eyes and it's sort of feeling more comfortable to me. But I worry that if I go back and I listen and I start editing my ums and uhs and whatever else is in there, that I'm not going to put it out. So maybe I'm going to just stop and then, upload it. But just so you know, for the record, I completely suck at this. I'm really sorry. I'm not trying to be perfect. I've been working at this really long time, and I just want, people to hear the story. So if anybody is listening to this, thank you, and I really genuinely appreciate your time. Thanks.